Hi, I'm Carol Sammel. I'm the Director of Planning here in the city of Peekskill, and I'm joined by Peter Irwin, planner.
Good morning.
We're here to talk to you about the Civic Hub and Connectivity Project. We'll be talking to designers and engineers about the project all week so that we can present the residents of Peekskill a fuller picture of all of the full dimensions of the project.
Looking forward to it.
So I think first starting, Peter, with is kind of what is the Connectivity Project and Civic Hub project overall, big picture. The Civic Hub and Connectivity Project is an exciting investment in some of the core civic spaces in Peekskill. The Pavilion is a contemporary expression of Peekskill's civic heart in Brown Plaza, and the Connectivity Project will strengthen the link between the train station and waterfront and Peekskill's downtown with improved pedestrian and bike connections, enhanced streetscape, and art. The art trail will provide artwork always within eyesight as you walk along Central Ave between the train station and downtown. The connection brings you to Brown Plaza and Pugsley Park in downtown. Brown Plaza, home to the gazebo, will be redesigned, expanded, and all four corners will be enhanced with improved streetscape and a raised speed table covering the entire intersection to improve pedestrian safety. The gazebo is proposed to be transformed into a contemporary pavilion. The pavilion is both functional and artistic. It will allow the same civic functions, gatherings, speeches, music, protests, casual get-togethers, at the same time that it provides an artistic punctuation in the downtown when not occupied. The pavilion is inspired by nature and the city. It is designed like a copse of trees or a grouping of flowers. It has multiple stems and two discs that form the canopy above.
The discs are copper, and the roof of the discs is designed to direct water to several of the stems to guide water into the stormwater system. The discs have perforations at the edges to allow light to come through and provide a playful design throughout the day. There is pedestrian lighting in the plaza, and the discs will also be lit to allow the structure to be inviting at night. The stems, or supports, are thoughtfully placed to create more intimate spaces below the two discs. The pavilion overall is 24 feet wide, which is the same width as the gazebo, allowing bands and larger gatherings underneath. The new pavilion is more open, allowing views toward the historic facades along Park Street. This design really embraces Peekskill as an art town, while allowing the civic heart of the city to grow into the future. The planning department will be out at the end of April to gather input on the design. How do you use the plaza? What brings you there? Should the canopy remain shiny or be allowed to develop a patina? These are two streetscape improvement projects that originated with our planning documents over the last 15 years. When you think about downtown Peekskill, you think about Restaurant Row and going to the Paramount Theater for a show. The Civic Hub project is a way to really expand on that feeling and create a plaza that works both for those informal nights as well as our many events that happen throughout the year. The Connectivity Project is a way of recapturing the uses, the employment, and the activity along Central Avenue. And that starts with the streetscapes, creating a safe thoroughfare for pedestrians and cyclists that's well lit and improved with things like public art.
Can you say more about what went into selecting the projects for the DRI?
The city and New York State hired a planning firm, BFJ, to conduct a series of public workshops and draft a planning document that would guide our grant-funded investments in the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. So these two projects were awarded based on all of that public feedback and prioritization that happened between 2019 and 2021.
So people saw the value of kind of redoing the plaza area and as well as the connections to the waterfront.
We're here at the intersection of Division Street with Park Street. That is the center of Peekskill. It has been for a long time. And this is where our New Year's Eve celebrations occur, and Cinco de Mayo, and many, many celebrations throughout the year. I think we measured 100,000 visitors in 2024.
The other really important part of some of the civic spaces in Peekskill is the art and the art trail. First off, can you kind of describe what that is, and then how does it relate to the space that we're in now, the Civic Hub?
Well, I think Peekskill residents have always looked at public art as a way of reinvigorating public space and reinvigorating public life. And this project seeks to build on that energy. So as you walk here from the train station, you will encounter several public art exhibitions. And in creating a focal point for that right-of-way, that thoroughfare, we wanted to create something that could function like a podium or a bandstand or a meeting point, but also provide that sculptural visual attraction to the area.
This is like the foot of the art trail, if you will. The art trail is leading us here to the Civic Hub, and this area really includes two components, the plaza itself and the gazebo. Let's talk about the redesign of the plaza and what does that entail?
Our consulting engineers at Barton and LaJudas identified many structural and functional improvements that were really important and received buy-in both from our city departments and from our community stakeholders. So the redesign will add approximately 2,000 square feet of plaza space, and that is gained by bumping out our curbs into the roadway where possible and safe for larger vehicles, and also allowing visitors to approach the podium or gazebo area from all directions, removing some of the landscaping to create more open and flexible spaces. In addition to that, we'll have new pedestrian signals at all of the intersections surrounding us, shorter crossing distances, and certain complete street features like a speed table at the intersection here of Division Street and Park Street.
It'll be safer, and in addition to just other functional improvements. Why are we redesigning the gazebo?
The gazebo itself that currently stands, it was constructed in 1978. It's not a contributing historical feature, and structurally and functionally, it has deteriorated over that time.
So we had a local design firm that we worked with as well. And how did the city kind of select to work with them and then select to kind of work on the proposal that we currently have?
Well, we have a pretty deep design team working on this project, all selected through competitive processes. The city selected Barton and LaJudas in 2022 to lead this design process, and that was important because that company has a depth of experience in engineering and traffic engineering as well. So they were really instrumental in moving forward a lot of our roadway safety improvements that go along with this.
How does this new structure respond to the historic character surrounding it in downtown Peekskill? It happens to be a district that I spent time years ago drawing facades of the wonderful variety of streetscape in downtown Peekskill by hand. It's an historic context, but it's also really important to recognize that we don't honor the historic context by replicating it or by doing something that pretends to be historic. This is the 21st century, and the appropriate thing to do is be honest about the fact that we're designing a structure for the contemporary situation in Peekskill, the cultural context, the current population of Peekskill, and reflect the values of that population and reflect the life that's going on in 21st century, and honestly using the technology, the forms, the vibrancy of 21st century design. And that's what we're introducing into the historic context. And both of them are enlivened by their contrast. The historic context is put into relief by the presence of a contemporary structure, and the contemporary structure is enlivened by the historic context. It's a wonderful dialogue.
When I first saw this space with that gazebo, and it was maybe 3-4 years ago since I've been really interacting with Peekskill, but came to see the gazebo around and really focus on it about a year ago, it occurred to me I never went inside that, and it doesn't bring you inside. It's an architectural element within this urban space that's being revisited, that's going to be so much more than it is today. How do we create a structure that's going to provide the function that we see in the gazebo, as well as inspire to create a multifunctional place? What we hope to do is to activate that public space with a structure that doesn't compete with the architecture, but rather seamlessly unifies the eclectic architecture around the square. And I really think we have something here that's light and uplifting and functional, as well as really interpretive in its experience. The vertical elements, those stems, could be a playful element. They could be ignored, or they can become a focus. It's just such a flexible solution to the needs of the current community.
Those firms have a breadth of experience in historic districts in Hudson River towns, and even have staff that live here in Peekskill. So we're really happy to be working with local talent with specific understanding and stake in the improvements that happen here.
So why don't we go into the gazebo and talk a little bit more about the details of the pavilion?
Certainly.
So let's get into it. Let's get into the design. What is replacing the gazebo? It's proposed to replace the gazebo.
Well, one thing we have here that other cities don't is the onion dome, or the turret, at 1 North Division Street. So in creating a new structure for the pavilion, we sought to create a gesture to that really historic and unique element, or that bit of Americana. The structure that's envisioned has our sculptural roofline consisting of 2 canopies that oppose one another, and very light support columns that provide sort of a playful experience at the ground level and also elevate, those 2 canopies. There are also days when nothing's happening here, and the opportunity to provide a sculptural intervention and something that really is a visual attraction was an important part of the plan.
Why don't we describe the pavilion in detail and the different design features? It's pretty thoughtful and has a lot of different elements to it. Do you want to describe the pavilion as we're seeing it here in this image?
One thing I love about it is that there's the elements you see and the elements you don't. So structurally, this is a very classic pavilion where vertical columns lead to a superstructure that's a sloped roof to manage rain and runoff. Hanging from that superstructure are these 2 lenses, or canopy elements, that incorporate metal like copper to really complement many of the architectural accents that you see throughout our downtown. The larger canopy provides a cantilever that will really function like a bandstand or a podium for our civic events. And the smaller canopy covers a more intimate area where we may have table and chair assemblies, the drum circle that gathers here on weekends, opportunities for residents and workers to have lunch and take some shade during the hotter days.
Yeah, it is clearly inspired by nature. Can you say a little bit about its inspiration?
When I look around this plaza, there are buildings that were built in the 1880s and 90s along Division Street, where we have this concentration of Italianate storefronts, or buildings that were built in the 1920s and 30s along Park Street, and even buildings that were built later, like Barham House in the 1980s. There's a real melange of architectural styles here, and when we think about historic preservation, I think we should be sensitive to preserving assets rather than preserving a particular era. So one way to stitch that all together was to lean on art and sculpture as a way to create visual interest in our public spaces, but really pay deference to the formal architecture that is around us. Whether you look east at the hills leading into Cortland, or west over the Hudson River at Dunderberg and Bear Mountains, you have these strong silhouettes or landscapes in every direction you look. So mimicking that with a more sculptural form felt appropriate.
Yeah, well said, Peter. Well said. And the current gazebo is pretty functional. I would say it's just functional. How does the new pavilion compare in kind of size and in footprint and in height to the current gazebo?
Very similar, actually, despite the differences in design. The new gazebo will be 11 feet tall at its lowest point, providing clearance and visibility for events, much like the current gazebo does. Both larger canopies are 24 feet in diameter, so the area that we have to program events and stage performances is approximately the same. The new structure does add that second, more intimate space further east, so there's more flexibility in terms of the uses that we might see occur here. And the new structure also comes with contemporary lighting and improved electrical service to support a variety of uses.
So the footprint of the gazebo will be available under the pavilion as well, plus a little additional feature in to the east.
The new structure could be approached from all sides, and that's both inward facing and outward facing. And I think one use that we all observed here over the last few years was people coming out to see live music on Division Street during Peekskill summer sessions. And we want to encourage that type of informal use where people could be sitting on stairs, sitting on the stadium seating that the new plaza creates, to kind of use the space in ways that maybe we're not even envisioning quite yet.
Yeah. So the gazebo is used for a lot of civic uses and a lot of civic gatherings. Will Peekskill residents still be able to use the pavilion for, I don't know, ceremonies, gatherings, the drum circle, or just to enjoy the day?
Well, look, I think that's why this project is called the Civic Hub. Certainly the intent is to provide a well-lit and welcoming environment that is open to everyone 24 hours a day.
And the way it's designed, we can envision serving as a bandstand, as a backdrop for a speech, stadium seating to watch the bands out on the street, or just to sit and enjoy. And certainly the drum circle can still fit within the confines of the pavilion. So the materials of the new pavilion, you talked about it being copper, and can you say a little bit about that? And is that all set in stone?
Just thinking about the vernacular in our region of the Hudson Valley, you visit every river town and everyone has a gazebo or a bandstand, and that's something that's important to us as well. So we didn't want to lose sight of that in designing this project. However, a clear goal of the DRI was to bring a unique visual attraction here and play off of the investments that we've made in public art over the last 20 years. So in form and function, Barton and Judas has clearly provided a podium that is raised above the street and provides a focal point for events. And materially, we're using historic materials like copper, which you see used for roofs and decorative storefronts throughout our downtown historic district. But we're using those materials in such a way that might speak to visitors, and we see these types of sculptural solutions throughout the Hudson Valley. Even though we're a historic place, we're also a place where visitors are traveling to Dia Beacon and the Storm King Arts Center, or places like the Hudson River Educational Center in Beacon, which uses much more modern forms, even with historic materials.
The pavilion design is, as you've described, is more open, intentionally.
The way the structure is oriented, it will be providing shade from sun on the hottest summer days, but also allowing light into the space during the coldest and darkest winter days.
Right. It works all year. And it also functions with the trees. We've got some mature trees that will remain. So I think we can show the video and have people understand what that looks like. So this project involves the Civic Hub here that we've gone into some detail about, but it also involves the connectivity project along Central Ave. Can you go into more detail about what will actually be built and created under that project?
Sure. So I think in most people's memory, Central Avenue has been a no man's land. But 100 years ago, it's where everyone worked. So conceptually, the plan is to bring back businesses and functions to that riverbank that is Central Avenue, so that, like in other places like Tarrytown or Cold Spring, part of our civic life occurs along Central Avenue. The way we seek to do that is by improving the streetscapes and pedestrian lighting and brick pavers that are along parts of that route, making certain intersections safer for pedestrians, such as the intersection of South Water Street and Central Avenue, and building cyclist infrastructure from our train station all the way up to downtown, so that whether you're using an electric scooter or electric bike or conventional bicycle, you have a way to get to the train and get to work along that route.
And it ends right here at the Civic Hub. This is the kind of the base of the trail, which is our kind of civic center for Peekskill. So this project is ambitious between these two components. Do we know how much it will cost? And what do we do if we can't afford it all right now? We have some money from the DRI. So how are we going to understand all of that?
When we say the project, we mean the connectivity project, starting with streetscapes on Railroad Avenue, coming all the way up to downtown and incorporating both the pedestrian safety and the artistic elements that we've been describing. Our cost estimate for that entire project is $2.4 million. And we have about $2.4 million in grant funding. Unfortunately, prices are really erratic right now. So the best we can say is we'll go out to bid for construction, receive pricing, competitive pricing from contractors, and then prioritize as a community which elements of the project we can fund now and which ones we can plan for funding later.
Yeah, the bidding process is important to understand the actual real costs that we have to face. And as you say, we will have some decisions to make, and we can do that as a community together. So are people still able to provide feedback, meaningful feedback on the Civic Hub and Connectivity Project?
Sure, I think we're filming this video to tell the story around the planning efforts and reasons and thoughtfulness behind the project, and so that we can circulate this and make sure that people are as informed as possible. We'll also be out here in the space a few times this spring to understand everyone's reception and start to build consensus around the next step.
Thank you, Peter. I hope that everyone has learned more about the Civic Hub and Connectivity Project in all its many dimensions. We look forward to talking with everyone more about it over the spring, right here in the gazebo.
Thank you very much.